It is a balmy 80 degrees inside the workshop. Hey Google, what's the temperature outside?
The temperature right now is 19 degrees.
19 degrees, but it's like Miami in here. 80 degrees. Probably time to save some propane, kick off the main furnace, and just let the mini split keep us nice and cozy. Today's project began with a notebook. I've got my dimensions all drawn up. I have my list, my schedule, my CPM schedule. And it's supposed to take me 3.5 hours. Can it be done? Yes. Optimum efficiency, is it necessary? No, not today. This is all I'm doing. This project is my goal for the day. So it seems everybody is interested in money, how much things cost, and how long they take. This wood right here, this is $100 in wood. It's poplar. My tool in the hand's goal is 3 hours and 20 minutes. That's if I'm perfectly efficient. But if I'm working by the hour, why do I want to be perfectly efficient? Why don't I bill for 6 hours? Well, I don't work by the hour, I work by the job. But a lot of people cannot understand that when you are self-employed. So here is why I cut off both ends. Don't want that. You want nice smooth ends. It also ensures we have 90-degree corners. I'm supposed to be getting a new saw. I just need to put in the work. Maybe you guys can help me out. I'm looking for one of them robot arm type saws. Akita might have one. Does Bosch have one? I need it to be very, very accurate for cabinet making, and it's never going to leave here. It's going to be plugged in. Do not want battery power. So put your recommendations down in the comments on that articulating arm so I can recess it back close to the wall and get the arm that comes out so my saw isn't, sticking out into the walkway here. So these next cuts have to be exact. That means you can't measure and cut, measure and cut, measure and cut. You got to put up a stop block. I get a lot of questions on this YouTube channel, and one of the most common questions is, how do you know how to do all the things that we watch you do on your videos? A decade ago, I would have never thought I could build something like this. I thought it was something that you had to have specialty training and a lifetime of experience. I remember my first cabinet job was for some wealthy political people. He was a city district attorney. This house was a former consulate house. This project might be on YouTube somewhere, because I remember talking about this consulate house and the guest book that they were showing me with all the former presidents and foreign leaders that had stayed at the house. Like, it was a big freaking deal. They wanted me to build some basic cabinets to store blankets that sat in a corner of a room. I don't think I built it here. I think I built it at my last house. There's got to be a video out there. Keep in mind, I've been making videos now for a decade. 10 years. It's crazy. That was my first real start in building cabinets and gaining the confidence to charge money for it. I believe this table saw is a 1996. It's a Powermatic 66. Oh man, does it cut good. Maybe we'll hold on to this piece. I'll need this for something. Put that in my stash. This is a floor-to-ceiling pantry cabinet. We're looking at the back side here. This is the top, that's the bottom. This is the back side. this is the side that the pocket holes are going to be drilled. So you want to put all your bad sides to the back, good sides of the boards to the front. There's my pocket hole setup. You guys have seen this many, many, many times. I'll leave a link in the description of a modern version of this, something I would purchase today if I was going to get into making some cabinets. Make sure everything is set up correctly. 3/4. Make sure your drill bit is set up correctly. You can check it there. You can also check it inside there. See, this is 1.5 inches, plenty of room, and they come out right in the middle. I may change my collar a little bit so that I avoid having this little bit of wood getting pushed out. As you can see, drilling pocket holes is a low skill level activity. Check the little bubbles that pop up at the bottom of the video. That's where I'm putting the best deals that I find for links to the tools that I'm using. It's gonna warm up the old glue. Didn't freeze, but it's getting a little thick. Little suspect here, but it is still moving. Got a little separation there. I may pop this off and pump out this whole section. Get all that out of there. This is Tight Bond 2, if anybody's curious. That looks good. This thing's been fully emptied, washed out many times. Now I got some nice, clean, creamy glue in there. Good job, handyman. Good job. A little wonky tonky, but this is gonna get screwed to a giant cabinet. It'll straighten this right out. Well, it's time to sand. I start at 120, maybe 80 if I've got a goofy joint that needs to be really worked. Caulk gun shirts will be linked in the description. You can get it with or without the stars and come and take it. Get one on your hat too. Caulk gun hats and shirts. Here's a quick shot of what an unsanded area looks like. I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but you can see a little bit of the milling marks. They're lines that go this way. It's a very tight grain, so you don't see any of the grain showing through, mostly. But sanding helps get rid of that. Actually, this part here is where I just went over it lightly with the sander, and you can see those horizontal lines. So I am hitting this up with 80 to begin with to get rid of all that milling. Even though these are very, very tight joints, I'll hit all of them with a little bit of filler, just in case there's something that I can't see. You can see this line here, that darker line there. It's actually glue. The squeeze out of the glue works as a filler. I'm switching over to 120 grit sandpaper, trying out Craftsman sandpaper. $19.99 for 60 seems pretty good. But right next to this one, for $19.99 for 30 of these Gators, these green Gator brand at Lowe's. I don't know, we're gonna see how these work. There's 60 of them, so they should last me almost a half a year to a year. Put down in the comments, have you used the Craftsman sandpaper? Have you used the Gator brand sandpaper? Is it really 4 times more usage? Got to switch to hand sanding to do the insides. Probably could get a better sanding setup, but with the hose on it, it's really a little unruly to get in and around all the corners. We are now in my pro grade paint shop. I'm going to be using lacquer. Pre-catalyzed white lacquer. Get a good look at that. See how it's filled all the way up to the tippy top? There's no room for tint. This is the color. Got a little scooper. I'm going to thin it down. I'm going to paint the back first, then we'll move on to the front. Getting a good finish on white cabinets is probably the most challenging. Stain grade wood is so much easier to finish than painted wood. There is no room for error. You get one little speck of dust in there and you'll see it. So that's why I'm going to filter and then filter. I do need to make some adjustments, I think, on my spray gun, my spray pattern. Less overspray, less waste. Get your fan pattern figured out. I'm using the DeVilbiss, as always. The FLG4. You can get it on Amazon. I'll put a link down below. I have 3 of them. One for white, one for colors, which has blue in it, and one for clear. Clear one is nice and clean. The white one was not. That's a story for maybe the end of the video. I'll tell you everything that slowed me down and all the problems and adjustments and things I had to overcome just checking to make sure I've got a hole in my breather hole. That's not all sealed up. Got my air, fan pattern, and we're going to spray the back of this. So the sprayer's all filled up. Right here you can get a little drip if your needle packing isn't set correctly. This is too loose. The paint will come out the back there. I just had this thing completely apart to clean it. So I got to redo all my settings. Gotta get a little more pressure. There we go. There we go. Well, we don't want that. Making a little bit of noise. Probably could turn the pressure down just a tiny bit. I'll put a link in the description for this mask. I always use this. Nice.
I could have put that a little thicker because it's the back side, but this will raise the grain. I'll sand this flat and put a little bit thicker, heavier coat on. But this first coat is pretty thin. I want this color to soak into the wood, not sit on top of the wood.
All right, got her flipped over. Backside is done. Looks real nice. You never see the light of day, but it's sealed up. You want all the faces of the wood sealed up. Blow it off, tack it off, and then spray it. First coat gets sanded. Second and third don't. We'll see what it looks like. I may put a heavy hammer coat for a fourth coat. That also might be the third coat. We're just going to see how things go. That first coat's going to be real light, and it is kind of thin.
Maybe it's too thick. Shouldn't be too thick. Looking good. Looking real good. Real nice.
So as you can see, this cabinet is going to be massive. Another feature is there's no filler strips. It's custom handmade, makes it extra expensive work. Great paint job. It will not show up on camera, the details, because the white just kind of washes everything out. It's pretty darn good. I'm pretty impressed with it, if I do say so myself. In the next video, I'll be making the boxes that make this giant, massive cabinet. The only way to do this with like production cabinets that are shipped to you or you buy at a store is to stack them on top of each other, and you're going to have seams in between each cabinet. An advantage to having one custom handmade. No seams, no filler strips. Make sure you check the links in the description and you can get a glue bot. I'll find the best deal for you. Go out and get one today. I also highly suggest you get yourself a full face respirator. That will also be in the YouTube shopping and the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.